Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning LaLa. And I'm so excited to have a conversation about men, young boys, emotional coping skills. Dr. Nadine is in the house. And you've created this kind of brand around real men talk. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what your mission is?
Well, the mission is essentially that there's been a traditional stereotype of males as being strong and silent, and that's attractive. And for that reason, we've never really, as a society, encouraged our men to talk about their feelings, their transitions, important things that we take for granted as females that we can talk about.
Was that an experience you can relate to, Rob?
Strong, silent, attractive, not so much. I was just so basically crippled by my own anxiety and insecurities. And thank God I had parents that were sort of open to me expressing myself. But yeah, I would say that as I got older, that was an increasing challenge because to share how you feel consistently is often considered a weakness.
It's fascinating that I love that you're doing this. And same, my son says, the hardest thing I ever overcame was finding his own voice and getting in touch with his emotions and being able to express them. So this is really important, the work that you're doing. So how are you doing this? How's the platform coming out to the world?
Well, essentially, I've partnered with an athlete. And as you may be familiar, in our society, athletes represent everything successfully male as a stereotype.
Yeah, totally.
And so the easiest way to challenge a stereotype is to take the stereotype and have them do something out of character. And so that's the approach that we're taking. Jason Caffey has been very comfortable discussing his issues with depression, anxiety, development. And so he has willingly come out and joined with me to go and present an alternative narrative for males.
I love that.
I just love this, absolutely. A large part of my private practice really consists of athletes, and mostly what we talk about is how they feel. Because they don't get a chance to express it in a way that they feel will be received by the world. So if there's somebody out there, maybe it's a guy or maybe it's a woman that wants to support a guy in being able to express what he's thinking and feeling in a way that can be received and also can be supported, what would you recommend?
One of the most important things that we need to understand is that it is actually harder for males to express their feelings. They've not had as much practice and it takes them longer. So if we can be more patient, and sometimes not in the moment, but if we give them a little bit of time, come back and ask them what was that really about, and they've had time to think about it, it's easier for them to get in touch with it. But a lot of times we're a little impatient. We want to know right then what's going on, and a lot of men just don't process it that quickly.
I've had trouble with that in past relationships with my brother, my father, my boyfriend, and that I come across maybe that I'm nagging or I'm probing too much, and their wall just goes up, instantly defensive. And really all I'm trying to do is actually connect. So is there a way of approaching that conversation besides just give them space and saying, hey, I want to hear you. I want to be a safe space for you?
Everything that you're saying is normal. It's a typical dialogue. The problem is that men don't dialogue the way we do. So the more we ask, the more defensive they become.
You're telling me. I've been there.
The best approach actually is just put it out there and expect a delayed response. It can come back 24 hours later, 48 hours later, but delayed response.
A year later.
Yeah.
And you can loop back to it later. But the key is not to ask frequently and in short spurts. We have to give them time to process.
So how can we start though with our young boys?
That's the key. One of the things that I've learned through this journey is the younger we start males talking, the easier it becomes for them. So that's one of the reasons we started with our first book, which is Returning the Boys to Puberty Experience, because that's one of the things males are not encouraged to talk about. There's all kinds of books and pamphlets, et cetera, for females going through puberty. But males, we just expect them to know what to do and what's going to happen. And that really isn't the case. They have the same mood swings, they have the same hormonal changes that women do, and no one's talking to them about it.
Such a great point. And I remember finding the body research that basically said, look, men and women experience pretty much the same levels of depression, but it's expressed differently. Whereas men tend to sort of express their depression through anger or through drinking. Women will often ruminate and then will connect with other women. But it's interesting that we experience kind of the same emotions and feelings and have similar experiences, but they're just manifest in such different ways.
Exactly. And even more dangerous is the fact that not only is it expressed in different ways, but our approaches to solutions are different. Women will ask for help. men won't. And so what's really scary is that men are 4 times more likely to die from suicides than females.
So true.
Because of the fact that they are not open, it's not accepted for them to ask for help. It's seen as weakness. And we really, as a society, need to get over that.
And it's interesting because I'm watching you and going, well, it's interesting that a woman is being, the leader for this, right? And I guess for me as I'm Dr. Divinity and coach, and a lot of times I work primarily with women, and I have men reach out, but I feel like it's not my place. I don't want to I feel like at some level, I want there to be a man that's going to guide that at some level. You know what I mean? When they're ready, they're going to find that leader and stuff. Not that I think it's good that you're doing it, but what do you feel about that as far as a woman taking this on versus?
I agree with you in the sense that we have what we would like to see. But the reality is about 25% of the families are being led by women. I'm one of those. I had 2 sons. And so at the end of the day, what we would like to see men step up and do for each other, first of all, they didn't experience it. Our first school is the house we grew up in. So if they grew up with men who did not talk to them, they don't have the tools to then talk to young boys. So a lot of times in this particular generation, I think it's important that women go ahead and step up and fill the gap. I know I would love to have a man do it. I would have loved for men to do it for my sons. But the reality is that wasn't what was available.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It's powerful. I had a conversation yesterday with a guy, and it was so interesting because he said to me, the only thing I remember as a kid, sort of being a boy, being told was that, if you're crying or if you're sad, I'll give you something to cry about. I'll give you something to be sad about. Like literally, that was the message.
Yes.
So you very quickly learned to, shut it down if you're upset. But of course, you don't quite shut it down. You just hide it.
Exactly.
Just mask it.
And what we end up seeing, and this was the case with Jason, my partner, when you experience things as child, fear, anxiety, things that stress you, if there's no release, it is energy that stays. It does not go away. And so as you mature, it transforms into things that represent more complications for your life. And so childhood fear can translate into adult anxiety.
Yeah.
So can you maybe share a bit of some of those symptoms and how it does translate? So if there is a man watching or a woman who's saying, hey, I might recognize this in my husband, in my son, in my lover, what are the signs of that and how can we start coping?
Okay, when it comes to anxiety, what you'll notice, for example, with 16-year-old boys, I'll start there and then move up. With 16-year-old boys, you might actually come home and find holes in the drywall because they're so frustrated, but they don't know how to express the frustration.
That was me. I used to punch walls.
Really?
I would just take my frustration. I would just punch walls. I'd get upset because I missed because I'd missed a couple shots basketball and I'd punch the wall because I'm like, how else do you express it?
You can process that.
Yeah. I
Interesting.
didn't punch other people though. That was good.
That was good.
Believe it or not, that happens with 25% of boys. The hole in the wall, so no one talks about it because parents are embarrassed. They don't want to make it sound like they have an out of control son. And it's not that they're out of control. It's just that there's a level of frustration that they do not know how to express. 25% of the homes you will go in the room, there will be a hole in the wall.
Amazing.
That is so interesting.
Then it goes into what? Alcoholism, drug
And then you will see it. You will see it in older men where to relax they need a drink to unwind. They may need to smoke a little. In other words, they start self-medicating the pain.
Because they never learned to self-soothe.
Exactly. And the whole self-soothing concept, you brought up something which was really interesting. We teach our boys not to cry. And one of the key body's mechanisms to self-soothe is crying. That's why when you have a good cry, you feel so good afterwards.
Right.
Because that's the body sensing. And see,
Just might have a
women will
good
not
cry right
go,
now.
"Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Nadine. We really do appreciate you in this conversation. Please tell everyone where they can learn more and follow.
Well, you can follow us on Doc and Jock, DOCNJOCK.com. And the book, Richard and the Boys, is also available on Amazon.
Great work.
Fantastic.
So much.
Truly.
Work.
Nadine.
Thank
We
you so
appreciate
much.
you.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.